There are nights when the heart feels heavier than the body. Nights when the quiet around you only makes the thoughts inside you louder. Nights when worry settles in the chest like a stone that refuses to move, and even the softest breath feels like it must push against something unseen. Nights when your mind circles around the same questions, the same fears, the same uncertainties that follow you from day into evening, into dusk, into darkness. It is into this kind of night that the promise of 1 Peter 5 verse 7 begins to stir, not as a command, not as a reprimand, but as a gentle invitation whispered into places that ache the most. Cast all your anxiety on him, for he cares for you. These words rise like a soft lantern glow along the edges of the soul, not forcing anything to change, simply lighting a path toward release. Take a slow, deep breath. Let the air move all the way in, filling the space beneath your ribs. Now let it fall out gently. Let your shoulders loosen. Let your jaw soften. Let your body settle a little deeper into wherever it rests. No need to hurry. No need to fix anything in this moment. Just breathe. If these stories bring you peace, take a moment to like this video, subscribe for more nightly reflections, and share where you're listening from tonight. Your words and presence help keep this space warm and growing. Now, take another slow breath. Let's begin. Imagine a soft dusk settling across a quiet hillside. Light is fading in gentle layers, turning gold into amber, amber into blue, blue into the first hints of night. A breeze drifts slowly through the tall grass, parting each blade with delicate fingertips, carrying the faint scent of earth cooling after the warmth of day. Somewhere in the distance, water trickles over smooth stones, a steady, peaceful rhythm, like the breath of creation itself. In that serene place, anxiety loosens its grip just enough for the heart to notice the world's gentle beauty, and for a moment, the heaviness within you pauses, not gone, but softened, as if some unseen presence has brushed a hand across your chest, relieving just a little of the pressure that has been building there. It is in this quiet landscape that the promise of Scripture unfolds like a tender whisper through the grass. Cast all your anxiety on him, not some of it, not only the parts that feel manageable, not only the fears that seem polite or acceptable, all of it, every knot in your chest, every restless thought, every tension held in your neck, every silent worry you never speak aloud. The one who hears these things does not recoil, does not grow weary, does not turn away. He stoops near with compassion deep enough to hold the weight you cannot carry much longer. He extends hands shaped by care, hands gentle enough to lift what you place in them, hands steady enough to keep holding it even when you fear it might fall. Take another slow breath, let it fill you, like warm lamplight, and as you exhale, imagine placing one small piece of your worry into those waiting hands. You do not need to release everything at once. You do not need to be brave all at once. You only need to begin. The hillside darkens further, the sky turning deeper shades of blue. Stars begin to appear like tiny seeds of light planted across the heavens. Each one gleams with quiet persistence, not forcing the darkness to flee, simply shining within it, offering gentle assurance that light and shadow can coexist, that you can feel anxious and still be held, still be seen, still be loved, the presence near. You grows more tangible, not as a figure you can see, not as a voice you can pinpoint, but as a peace settling slowly through your ribcage, softening the tightness beneath your sternum, slowing your heart, soothing your breathing. This peace is not fragile. It does not tremble before your worry. It does not shrink back from your restless thoughts. It knows exactly who you are, exactly how you feel, exactly what has pressed against your spirit today. And still, it draws near, not to judge what you carry, but to help you carry it. Let your breath deepen again. Inhale slowly, exhale fully. Imagine your worries as small stones slowly rolling from your hands into the hands of one who holds galaxies without strain. They do not burden him. They do not overwhelm him. They are received with love that does not hesitate. You are not asked to be strong right now. You are not asked to solve what you cannot. You are invited to rest, to release, to breathe, to let the one who cares for you draw near enough to steady the places that feel unsteady tonight. Above you, the stars brighten. Around you, the night deepens. Within you, something begins to calm. Just a little, just enough for the next breath, the next moment, the next small unburdening. There is a valley the heart enters at the end of a long day, a place between sunlight and darkness, between motion and stillness, between holding on and wanting so deeply to let go. It is a valley where worries gather quietly, like small shadows drifting toward the same soft place, not to frighten, not to overwhelm, but simply because the mind is finally quiet enough for them to be heard. Jeremiah once walked through valleys like this. Not the valleys of the land, but the valleys of the soul, those inner landscapes where thoughts feel heavier, where hesitation grows louder, where the spirit aches for rest yet does not know how to find it. In those valleys, even the simplest concerns can feel like mountains. Even the smallest fears can echo like thunder. Even the faintest uncertainty can stretch into long silhouettes across the heart. The listener may know this valley too, the place where breath grows shallow, where the chest tightens without permission, where the mind circles around the same questions, until the questions fray into threads, where the body feels both tired and restless at the same time, where even the quiet feels too loud. Tonight, beneath the soft unfolding of night, this valley rises gently before you, not to trap you, but to meet you, to show you the places where God is preparing to lift the weight you've carried alone for too long. Take a slow, deep breath. Let it move down into your ribs. Let the exhale fall out like warm wind moving through tall grass. You are not alone in this valley. Imagine the evening settling across the land, the last light of the sun slipping behind gentle hills, the sky deepening into shades of lavender and soft blue, a faint hush falling over everything, the kind of quiet that makes even the earth seem to exhale in this fading light. You begin to notice shapes forming along the valley floor, shapes that look familiar, shapes that feel familiar, each one representing a worry you have carried today. Some are small, like faint outlines drawn in the dust. Others are larger, casting long shadows across the gentle slope. There is the worry of what tomorrow will bring, the worry of decisions waiting for you, the worry of loved ones walking through their own storms, the worry of finances, of health, of mistakes you fear you might make, the worry of things you cannot control, the worry of things you tried to control but could not. These shapes gather not to accuse you, not to shame you, but simply because this is where they go when the day grows quiet. This valley is where the heart releases what it tried to hold together, where burdens surface so they can finally be laid down, and in the center of the valley, a soft glow begins to appear, faint at first, barely noticeable, but gradually brightening into a gentle light. The kind of light that does not force the darkness to flee, but warms it, softens it, redeems it. This is the presence of God, moving into the valley of your worries, not to drag you out in fear, but to walk with you in tenderness, to stand among the things that trouble you, to show you that nothing you carry frightens him, and nothing you fear is too heavy for his arms. The light spreads slowly across the valley floor, touching each shadow one at a time, revealing their shapes without harshness, without judgment, without urgency, just soft understanding, total awareness, perfect compassion. The listener is invited to let this scene settle gently into the heart. Let the breath become slower, let the chest expand softly, let the body feel heavier, safer, more grounded. The valley of your worries is not abandoned, it is visited, it is held, it is seen by the one who cares for you completely. Jeremiah learned this truth in his own anxious nights. before he ever spoke a single prophetic word, before he knew the path God had prepared for him, before courage found him. He learned that God walks into the places where fear gathers. God steps into the valley without waiting for the heart to feel strong. God comes close when the mind feels tangled, tired, overwhelmed. In this moment, imagine God sitting with you at the quiet center of the valley, knees bent, shoulders relaxed, presence steady and warm. No hurry, no expectation, just companionship, just care, just love that does not need you to be anything other than what you are in this breath. Take another slow breath. Imagine the worries in the valley stirring, shifting, loosening their grip, not disappearing, just softening, because they are no longer being held alone. The valley grows quiet. The sky above deepens into a gentle blanket of night. Stars begin to reveal themselves, one by one, each one a reminder that light still exists even when the world feels dim. Each one a small promise that the God who made them watches over you too. You remain there with him, not rushing, not fixing, simply being, simply resting, simply noticing how the heart begins to ease when it is no longer carrying everything by itself. There is a soft place at the edge of every valley, a place where shadows thin, where quiet deepens, where the heart senses that someone is drawing near before a sound is ever heard. It is in this place, at the very boundary between fear and comfort, that the image of the shepherd begins to awaken, not with sudden brightness, not with overwhelming presence, but with the gentle approach of one who knows the fragile shape of human worry, and still comes closer. Jeremiah once imagined God as distant, high, above, unreachable in the moments when fear tightened in his chest. But on nights like this, as he lay beneath the spreading quiet of the land, he began to understand something truer. God was not perched on distant heights. He was walking the edges of Jeremiah's trembling heart, moving slowly, patiently, gathering the scattered pieces of his anxiety with compassion deeper than memory. The listener may feel something similar, a sense that sorrow sits in one corner of the soul, fear in another, uncertainty in another still, all scattered across the inner landscape like wandering sheep with no clear path. But in this moment, a shepherd approaches, not with force, not with threat, but with presence that quiets the very air, presence that changes the shape of the night. Take a slow breath, let it reach the lower ribs, let the exhale spill out gently, like warm wind gliding across soft hills. This breath becomes the first step toward the shepherd's nearness. Imagine him now, not in a robe bright with glory, not with a voice that shakes the mountains, but as a quiet figure moving along the edge of your valley, his steps soundless in the grass, his posture steady, his expression filled with understanding deeper than language. He does not rush toward you. He does not demand your attention. He simply moves with the calm certainty of one who knows exactly where you are, exactly what weighs on you, exactly which worry sits closest to the surface tonight. The scene grows clearer in the soft hours of evening. He walks the valley's perimeter, hands open, arms relaxed, checking the terrain, scanning the shadows, ensuring that nothing threatens the fragile heart he has come to comfort. He notices each shape resting on the valley floor, each worry you have carried silently through the day, fear of tomorrow, fear of decisions, fear of being overwhelmed, fear of being unseen, fear of losing, fear of disappointing, fear of the unknown. He takes in all of it, without flinching, without surprise, without disappointment. The shepherd does not come to evaluate your fear. He comes to walk with you in it, to guide each trembling thought toward rest. Jeremiah learned this in the tender days before his calling took shape. He felt God circling the edges of his fear, not to pressure him, but to gather him, to show him that he was not expected to carry a single burden alone. The shepherd's nearness became the foundation beneath every trembling moment. The listener is invited into this same nearness. Let the breath deepen. Let the shoulders ease. Let the heart imagine the gentle steps of one who knows you completely. His presence does not push, does not demand, does not hurry. It simply surrounds, softening fear, one breath, one moment, one heartbeat at a time. The shepherd steps further into the valley now, his presence warming the cool edges of night. He walks slowly toward you, not because he is hesitant, but because he knows the fragile places of the human spirit, knows when to move closer, knows when to pause, knows how to reach the troubled heart without overwhelming it. The wind shifts gently around him, the grass bows slightly, as if creation recognizes the one who shaped it. Stars shimmer a little brighter, their quiet glow reflecting off his calm features. He lifts his gaze toward you with eyes that hold centuries of compassion, eyes that have watched countless hearts tremble and cared for each one. With the same steady tenderness, he stops just a short distance from where you sit, not too close, not too far, just near enough for you to feel the warmth of his presence washing through the tension in your body, just near enough for your breathing to begin finding a calmer rhythm. The listener may feel their own chest loosening now, their thoughts slowing, their body growing heavier with rest. This is what the shepherd's nearness does. It steadies, it softens, it quiets the edges of fear. Jeremiah knew the moment God drew near to his trembling heart, knew it not by sight, but by the way the air changed, by the way his pulse slowed, by the way anxiety seemed less sharp, less overwhelming, less suffocating. This same change begins now in you, not because the worry has disappeared, but because it is no longer being held alone. The shepherd remains before you, silent, present, patient, ready to walk with you through every valley, ready to guide you toward peace at a pace that matches your breath, ready to show you that no fear is too small, no burden too heavy, no shadow too dark for his gentle care. There is a quiet truth the heart seldom speaks aloud, a truth carried beneath steady voices, beneath practiced smiles, beneath the gentle nods we offer to others when they ask how we are doing, a truth that lives behind the calm we present to the world. We are often far heavier inside than anyone can see. Jeremiah learned this in the early years of his calling, before he ever spoke truth to crowds, before nations ever turned their eyes toward him. He walked through days when his heart felt weighted, not by dramatic fears, but by the subtle heaviness that builds slowly, quietly, one unspoken concern at a time. The listener may know this heaviness well. It is the weight that settles in the chest even when the face is smiling, the thoughts that swirl beneath the surface even when the voice speaks calmly, the quiet ache behind the ribs that no one else notices, the kind of burden that rarely gets named, because naming it feels like unraveling a thread that might not stop once it begins. Tonight, beneath the soft breath of evening, you're invited to finally acknowledge these hidden burdens, not loudly, not all at once, but softly, gently, in the presence of a God who sees them even when you cannot speak them. Take a slow breath. Feel the air move through the small spaces between your ribs. Let it fall out with tender release. Let the body grow heavier. Let the mind soften. Imagine now the valley of your inner life, the same valley where worries gathered in the quiet moments of twilight. But look closer, for in the gentle darkness, other shapes begin to appear, not the sharp silhouettes of fear, but softer, rounder forms. The burdens you have carried for a long time, carefully hidden beneath the calm you show to the world. There is the tiredness that comes from pretending to be steady, the ache of holding everything together when you wish you could fall apart, the sorrow of feeling responsible for more than your heart can hold, the quiet grief over things that never turned out the way you hoped, the emptiness that sometimes appears without warning, even in moments that should feel full, the loneliness that hides behind busy days and familiar routines. You see them now, not as failures, not as weaknesses, but as the tender parts of your humanity, the parts God sees with compassion deeper than words. And on the far edge of the valley, Just beyond the soft rise of shadow, the shepherd approaches again, his steps unhurried, his presence gentle, his face calm with understanding. He does not avoid the burdens you've hidden, he walks toward them, toward you, toward the places you have tried so hard to protect from being seen. Jeremiah once feared this moment, feared that if God saw the trembling inside him, the doubt, the insecurities, the inner storms, he would turn away, choose someone stronger, choose someone braver, choose someone who did not carry such heaviness beneath their calm. But God did not turn away, not then, not ever. Instead, he knelt beside the very fears Jeremiah tried hardest to hide. He touched the places Jeremiah believed were too fragile. He carried the burdens Jeremiah thought he had to keep to himself. He showed him that love grows deeper in the places where we feel weakest, not the places where we appear strongest. The listener is gently invited to sense this truth now, that the burdens hidden beneath your calm are not invisible to God. They are seen clearly, lovingly, compassionately, and they do not push him away. They draw him closer. Let your breath deepen. Let the chest expand softly. Let the exhale fall out like warm air slipping through open hands. This breath is not about control. It is about permission. Permission to let the heart feel what it feels. Permission to allow God to see what he already knows. The shepherd reaches the center of the valley, where your hidden burdens rest like quiet stones placed upon the ground. He does not rush past them. He kneels beside them. He studies each one as though it carries a story he remembers in intimate detail. He places his hand lightly on one of them, and something inside you softens at the touch, not because the burden has vanished, but because it is no longer sitting untouched, no longer carried unseen. It has been noticed by the one who cares for you completely, the one who does not tire, does not intimidate, does not shame, only comforts, only supports, only helps you breathe again. Jeremiah often felt the weight of hidden sorrow, but it was in the moment God touched that sorrow that everything began to change. Fear loosened, tension eased. The burden no longer pressed against his chest with the same sharpness. The listener may feel something similar now, a small softening behind the sternum, a gentle release in the shoulders, a warmth blooming quietly beneath the ribs. This is the shepherd's nearness. This is the God who sees beneath the calm. This is the one who reaches into the silent places of your heart and brings comfort without demanding anything in return. You and the shepherd sit together in the quiet valley, not rushing, not speaking, simply allowing the hidden burdens to be seen, simply allowing the heart to rest in holy understanding, simply allowing the weight to shift, just slightly, into hands far steadier than your own. There are moments when the soul stands at the fragile edge between holding on and letting go. Moments when the weight inside has grown so familiar that releasing it feels almost impossible, as though the worry has woven itself into the fabric of breath and thought, as though the burden has become part of who you are. But there is a deeper truth that rises softly beneath that fear, a truth whispered through 1 Peter 5 verse 7. Cast all your anxiety on him, not because you are strong enough to release it, but because he is gentle enough to receive it. Tonight, we step into that truth, slowly, kindly, breath by breath. Jeremiah once reached this same tender threshold, the line where his trembling heart met the invitation of God's hands. He did not always understand the path before him. He did not always feel brave enough to walk it, but he felt the nearness of the one who called him, felt the gentle tug of divine love inviting him to stop gripping his fear as if it were the only thing keeping him steady. And now, beneath the soft hush of evening, you are invited to feel that same nearness, that same invitation, that same tenderness drawing your spirit toward release. Take a slow, deep breath. Let it gather softly in the base of your lungs. Now let it fall out in a long, unhurried exhale. Let the breath loosen what your thoughts have been holding too tightly. Imagine the valley around you growing even quieter. the shapes of your worries resting gently on the ground like small stones. The shepherd kneeling among them with the patience of eternal love, his hands resting lightly upon his knees, palms open, warm, steady, not reaching yet, not taking anything from you without your consent, but ready, waiting, inviting. These hands, the same hands that shaped mountains, the same hands that carved rivers through stone, the same hands that steady the stars, are now extended toward your trembling heart, not to overwhelm, not to command, but to invite. There is a softness to his presence, a warmth that rises from him like morning light touching cold earth. The kind of warmth that coaxes flowers to open, the kind that melts frost, the kind that wakes life gently from within. Jeremiah felt these hands in his own hour of surrender. He expected strength like fire, but instead he found strength like sunlight. Gentle, steady, patient, strong enough to reshape him, soft enough not to break him. The listener may feel this now, a warmth blooming slowly within the chest, a loosening beneath the ribs, a tenderness spreading across the sternum, as if something within is preparing to let go, not because you have forced yourself to, but because the one before you is trustworthy, because his hands offer a safety your own grip never could. The shepherd reaches forward at last, but he does not grab, does not demand. His fingers hover just above the nearest worry, inviting, welcoming, loving. His touch is gentle, barely a whisper against the weight you've placed on the ground. But in that whisper, something shifts. Not everything, just enough for the heart to feel a path toward release. The valley seems to brighten slightly, not with daylight, but with a kind of inner clarity, a soft glow that emanates from him, a glow that reaches the places inside you where fear has lived too long, a glow that says, you do not have to carry this alone anymore. Take another slow breath. Imagine lifting one worry, just a small one, the one nearest your fingertips. Feel its shape, its weight. Feel how long you have held it, how familiar it has become, and now, imagine placing it in his waiting hands. Imagine the moment it leaves your palms. Imagine the relief, brief and trembling, that follows. Imagine his fingers curling gently around it, not to hide it, but to hold it. The shepherd does not tighten his grip. He holds it as one holds something precious, something meaningful, something that matters. He looks up at you, not with expectation, not with pressure, but with gratitude that you trusted him with even this small part of your heart. Jeremiah once offered his worries this same way, piece by piece, tear by tear, breath by breath, and each offering loosened the weight within him, not because life changed instantly, but because he no longer faced his inner storm alone. The listener can feel this soft shift too, feel how one released worry makes the body a little heavier against its resting place, a little more grounded, a little more supported by the God who stands near. The shepherd's hands remain open, still gentle, still patient, still ready to receive the next weight whenever your heart is ready. You do not need to rush. You do not need to force anything. You do not need to let go of all your burdens in a single breath. You are simply invited to trust, invited to rest, invited to let your burdens be held by hands stronger and softer than your own. The valley around you deepens into quiet. The wind slows. The sky darkens in peaceful hues. Everything in creation seems to whisper the same truth. You do not carry your anxieties alone, not anymore. There is a moment, subtle and sacred, when anxiety begins to soften, not disappear, not dissolve instantly, but soften, like ice warming beneath morning sun, like a tight fist slowly unclenching after holding on for far too long. Jeremiah knew these moments well. He knew the long hours when fear felt sharp, when breath was shallow, when every quiet thought echoed louder than the world outside. But he also knew the tender hour when God's nearness began to warm the cold edges of worry, when the heart, tired from resisting, finally allowed itself to be held, when the weight inside eased just enough for peace to find an opening. Tonight, that opening begins to form within you too. Take a slow breath. Let it move down gently into your lower lungs. Hold it there for just a moment. Now let it fall out, long, slow, like a soft exhale drifting into night air. Imagine the valley again, the place where your worries gathered earlier. But something is different now. The shepherd's presence has changed the atmosphere. The shadows are less pronounced. The ground feels softer, the air warmer. Anxiety does not vanish in the presence of God. It melts, it loosens, it loses its sharp edges and begins to settle into a shape that no longer cuts the inside of your spirit. You notice now how the worries that once pressed tightly against your chest begin to drift slightly. Apart, not running away, just no longer clinging to you with the same urgency, as if they too recognize the warmth surrounding you, as if they know they are no longer the only voices in the valley. The shepherd kneels among them still, his hands resting lightly against the earth, his posture calm, his breathing steady. He touches the burdens with a tenderness that feels impossibly deep, not shying away from their heaviness, not surprised by their shape, not frustrated by their presence. He simply remains. And in his remaining, your anxiety begins to soften. Jeremiah once trembled beneath the weight of his calling. The unknowns, the expectations, the fears that whispered he was too young, too small, too uncertain. But when God stayed near, when God remained, the trembling softened, the fear loosened. The anxiety that once held him tightly began to melt beneath divine gentleness. The listener may feel this now too, a slight warmth beneath the ribs, a slow release in the shoulders, a quiet sigh slipping through the body without being asked. The first signs that anxiety is no longer gripping as fiercely, no longer pressing as sharply, no longer defining the contours of this moment. Look again at your valley. The hills around you rise like soft silhouettes against the deepening night. The sky overhead glows with early starlight. A faint breeze moves through the grass with the quiet rhythm of a whispered lullaby. Everything is gentle, everything is softened, everything seems shaped intentionally to help your heart rest. The shepherd lifts one worry into his hands, the one you placed there earlier. He holds it with care, turning it slowly, thoughtfully, not analyzing it, not judging it, simply holding it as if it was something precious to him. He looks up at you again, and something inside you responds. Something that was tense begins to release. Something that was clenched begins to relax. Not because you forced yourself to let go, but because you see how safe your burdens truly are in his hands. Take another slow breath. Imagine one more worry loosening its grip on your heart. The tight circle inside your mind beginning to open. The tension in your diaphragm easing just a little. Each breath becoming slightly easier, slightly deeper, slightly less heavy. Your worries may still be here, but they no longer sit on your chest like stones. They rest on the ground, or in his hands, and the difference is everything. Jeremiah walked through nights like this, nights when God did not fix everything at once, but softened the weight enough for him to breathe again, enough for him to sleep, enough for him to trust that tomorrow would be carried by the same God who held his worries tonight. The listener is invited to rest in this same truth. You do not need every answer tonight. You do not need every problem solved. You do not need the path mapped out. You only need to feel the warmth of God's presence rising within your chest, the slow softening of anxiety in his gentle light. Your body grows heavier, your breathing deeper, your thoughts quieter. You begin to sense that the valley of your worries has become a place of companionship, a place of comfort, a place of peace unfolding slowly within the soul. This is how God relieves anxiety, not always by removing it, but by softening it, warming it, holding it, until the heart feels light enough to rest again. There is a moment, quiet, delicate, nearly invisible, when the heart discovers it can breathe again, Not because every worry has disappeared, not because life has suddenly softened, but because something within has shifted, opened, relaxed, made space for peace to move through the places where tension once lived. Jeremiah knew such moments in the earliest days of his calling. Moments when he would sit alone in the hush of evening, his thoughts heavy, his spirit trembling. But then, unexpectedly, air would move through him more gently. Breath would deepen without effort. His chest would loosen as though an unseen hand had been quietly releasing knots one by one. Tonight, beneath the quiet of this unfolding story, your heart is invited into that same tender shift, that same gentle unwinding, that same rediscovery of breath. Take a slow breath, inhale softly, let it drift down into the warm center beneath your ribs, and exhale even more slowly. A long, soft, unhurried release. Notice how the body responds, how the shoulders settle, how the jaw unclenches, how the chest rises with less effort, how the heart finds a steadier rhythm. When anxiety loosens its grip, the first gift it returns is breath. Breath that no longer strains, breath that no longer rushes, breath that becomes a companion rather than a struggle. Imagine the valley again. The shepherd still kneels among your worries, his hands resting warmly over the one you entrusted to him. The others lie gently at his side, no longer pressing, no longer threatening, simply resting in the soft light he brings to this sacred place. You sit just a short distance away, your legs drawn close, your arms resting loosely around them, and you notice something you hadn't before. You're breathing differently, more easily, more deeply, more freely. Each breath seems to glide rather than strain, as though the air has widened inside you, as though the tight corners of your heart have begun to soften. Jeremiah felt this shift too, he remembered. Nights when it seemed the world sat heavy on his chest, but as God approached, as divine presence grew closer, his breath no longer fought against the weight of fear. It flowed, it expanded, it strengthened him quietly from within. The listener may sense this same shift rising now, that soft awareness that breathing is not a task, not a burden, but a gentle rhythm given by God, a rhythm that returns the heart to its natural state, steady, calm, open. The shepherd lifts his eyes toward you, and without a word, you feel something inside loosen even further, as though his very gaze untangles what you thought would always remain knotted. He does not ask you to explain your fears. He does not demand that you be stronger. He simply looks at you with tenderness that reaches the deepest parts of your spirit, and in that tenderness, your breath deepens again, a sign of healing, a sign of trust, a sign of surrender blooming in the soft soil of your heart. The night around you grows more serene. The breeze calms into long, quiet waves. The grass sways gently, as though rocked by the same peace that is beginning to settle within your chest. The sky darkens into deep blue velvet. Stars shimmer like small lanterns hung across heaven's ceiling. You inhale again, this time without thinking, and the breath enters more fully, spreads more widely, rests more gently. It is the breath of a heart releasing its burdens, the breath of someone learning, slowly, tenderly, that they are not meant to carry everything alone. The breath of someone who is beginning to trust the hands that hold their worries. Jeremiah often wondered how God could expect him to walk into difficult places, speak difficult words, face difficult people. He felt too small, too frail, too anxious. But every time he allowed God to draw near, every time he placed one fear into divine hands, his breath returned, his courage steadied, his spirit opened just enough for peace to enter. You may feel that opening now, a warmth blooming behind the sternum, a slow, gliding exhale melting tension from the throat, the spine settling deeper into its resting place, the weight around your heart easing, bit by bit. This is what happens when burdens shift, when hands stronger than your own hold what once felt unmanageable, when divine presence sits with you rather than waiting for you to be fine. You do not have to force anything tonight. You do not have to fight for calm. Peace is beginning to find its way to you, not through effort, but through surrender. Breathe again, a long, slow, gentle breath. Feel how it moves without resistance. Feel how it brings softness into the deepest parts of you. Feel how it reminds you that you are safe. The valley is still. The shepherd is near. Your burdens are no longer held alone, and your heart, after carrying so much for so long, is learning to breathe again. There are evenings when the inner world feels covered in a quiet fog, not a frightening fog, not a storm, just a soft haze that blurs the edges of clarity, a mist that makes it hard to see where one worry ends and another begins, a thin veil that settles over thought, breath, and memory, leaving you unsure of the next step, the next decision, the next direction. Jeremiah knew fog like this. Fog that drifted through his young heart before the shape of God's calling became clear. Fog that whispered hesitations, questions, uncertainties he could not articulate. Fog that made the world feel muted, distant, not dangerous, but dim. The listener may know this feeling too, that quiet cloud that lingers within, not loud enough to alarm, but thick enough to obscure the horizon, thick enough to make you question what to do, thick enough to make every choice feel fragile. But fog is not a barrier to the shepherd. It is simply the atmosphere through which his voice grows gentler, closer, more intimate, because when sight is unclear, his presence becomes something felt rather than seen. Take a slow breath. Let it fill your lungs in a soft wave. Hold it for a moment, then let it fall out like mist rolling off warm water. Feel the fog within you soften with that exhale. Imagine now the valley around you. Earlier, you saw it clearly, the shapes of your worries, the warm light of the shepherd's presence. But now, a soft mist begins to drift across the ground. It curls around your legs, moves between the small stones of your burdens, rises in thin, whispering streams along the edges of the hills. It is not heavy, not cold. It is the kind of fog that quiets sound, softens movement, encourages stillness. You sit within it, your breath steadying, your body growing heavier against the earth, your mind slowing into a gentle rhythm, and even though the details around you blur, you feel no fear, because somewhere in the mist, the shepherd is still near. You cannot see him clearly now, but presence does not depend on sight. It depends on nearness, on familiarity, on a voice that echoes softly through the haze. Jeremiah often felt God this way, not in clear visions, not in loud declarations, but in a whisper carried through the fog of his uncertainty, a whisper that called him by name, a whisper that guided him even before he understood the path. The listener may feel this whisper now, not as audible sound, not as spoken language, but as a soft awareness rising beneath the ribs, a gentle pull toward peace, a tender sense that someone is drawing near, even through the blur of inner confusion. The shepherd steps through the fog, his outline faint, his form softened by the drifting mist, but his presence undeniable. The air warms around him. The ground feels steadier where he walks, and with each step, the fog seems to glow with a soft amber hue, as though lit from within. He moves with deliberate gentleness, as if careful not to disturb your fragile calm, as if honoring the quiet space between fear and trust, as if knowing you need him to come close, but not suddenly. He stops a short distance from you, far enough that you must lean inward slightly to sense him, close enough that his warmth brushes against your skin like a soft dusk breeze. He calls to you, not loudly, not urgently, but with the kind of voice that eases tension from the inside out, a voice woven into breath rather than sound, a call that reaches not the ears, but the heart. It says, "I am here." It says, "You do not walk this fog alone." It says, "Let me guide you through what you cannot yet see." It says, "Rest, breathe, trust that I am closer than the mist around you." Jeremiah once trembled at the uncertainty before him, But when God's call reached him through the haze of doubt, his fear softened, his breath deepened. The fog within him did not disappear, but it no longer frightened him, because the one who walked through it was faithful, compassionate, patient enough to guide him step by gentle step. The listener may feel that same guidance forming inside, that subtle shift from fear to stillness, that growing anchoring beneath the sternum, that soft sense of direction even when clarity is not yet visible. The shepherd reaches out his hand, not to pull you, not to hurry you, but to reassure you, to let you know you are safe even when the path ahead is hidden in mist. You don't need to see everything tonight. You don't need to know what tomorrow will hold. The fog is not a sign of abandonment. It is a sign that you are being guided more intimately, more tenderly, more closely than before. Take another slow breath. Feel the air move through your softened chest. Feel the exhale drift into the mist like a warm sigh. Feel the shepherd's nearness wrap around you like a gentle shawl. The fog lingers, but it no longer unsettles you, because the shepherd is here, calling softly, guiding quietly, leading you through the places you do not yet understand. And with every breath, every heartbeat, every moment spent in his presence, your anxiety softens a little more, your confidence steadies, your heart learns again how to trust. There is a sacred moment, so quiet it is easy to miss, when the weight a heart has carried for so long begins to shift from your shoulders into hands far more able to bear it. Not because you forced yourself to let go, not because you summoned courage you did not have, but because divine gentleness has softened the burden just enough for release to feel possible. Jeremiah knew moments like this, where one breath became a turning point, where one quiet surrender reshaped an entire night, where one trembling offering made room for peace to slip into places long guarded by fear. Tonight, that moment draws near for you too. Take a slow breath. Let it settle deep in your lungs. Feel your chest expand softly. Now release it with a long, warm, unhurried exhale. Feel the small shift inside, the subtle permission to loosen your grip. Imagine the valley again, the mist still drifting in gentle waves, the air cool and calm, the shapes of your worries resting like soft stones scattered across the ground. The shepherd stands before you now, closer than before, his presence warm, steady, familiar. The fog curls around his feet as though drawn toward him. The light around him softens everything it touches, including the weight within your chest. He kneels slowly beside the nearest of your burdens, his hands open, palms turned upward, not demanding, not insisting, simply waiting with the patience of someone who has loved you longer than you have known how to breathe. Jeremiah once hesitated at this very point. He feared that placing his burden in God's hands would feel like losing control, like stepping into an unknown he could not predict. But when he finally surrendered, when he entrusted even a single piece of his fear to the one who called him, he found not uncertainty, but relief, not judgment, but compassion, not emptiness, but rest. The listener may feel a similar hesitation. Letting go is not easy. The heart often clings to what is familiar, even when it is heavy, even when it hurts. But something inside you has begun to soften, has begun to trust, has begun to believe that you are not meant to carry this weight alone. The shepherd extends his hands a little closer, his fingers relaxed, his expression gentle, as if saying without words, "Give me what hurts you," as if promising, "I will hold what you can no longer bear," as if assuring, "You will not walk another step with this weight pressing against your spirit." You look down at the burden nearest you, the one that has lingered longest, the one that has whispered loudly in the quiet hours, the one you have tried to silence, hide, or fix on your own. Feel its weight, its shape, the way it has pressed against your ribs for so long. And now, imagine your hands reaching toward it, slowly, cautiously, your fingers brushing against it, your breath catching slightly as the familiar heaviness responds to your touch. Then, With a gentle exhale, imagine lifting it just enough to feel its weight become real, not imagined, not exaggerated, just real, just what it is. The shepherd leans closer, his hands waiting just below yours, his eyes soft with compassion, his presence so calm that even your trembling feels accepted. And when you are ready, not rushed, not pressured, imagine placing that burden into his open palms. Imagine the moment of transfer, the shift of weight, the subtle release in your shoulders, the warm throb of relief inside your chest. This is not abandonment, not denial, not pretending the worry never existed. It is trust, pure, quiet trust. The kind that says, I cannot carry this alone anymore. The kind that accepts the shepherd's promise. The kind that allows love to hold what fear once controlled. The shepherd's hands close gently around the burden, not tightly, not possessively, but with care, with intention, with a reverence for how deeply it has affected you. He lifts it slowly, as though honoring its weight, as though acknowledging the courage it took for you to release it. Then he rises to his feet, standing tall, steady, unshaken, the burden resting effortlessly in his grasp. A burden that once bent your breath now held lightly by the one who formed galaxies. Jeremiah felt this same miracle. The moment when fear once curled tightly in his chest found a new home in God's hands. When he realized he no longer walked under its full weight, when breath came easier, when courage began to breathe within him again. The listener may sense this too, a lightness beginning behind the sternum, a warmth spreading gently through the belly, a loosening in the neck and shoulders, a soft sigh the body releases without asking permission. This is the grace of surrender, the grace of transfer, the grace of allowing divine love to carry what your heart was never meant to hold alone. The fog remains, but it no longer feels suffocating. The valley remains, but it no longer feels lonely. The burdens remain, but they are no longer on your shoulders. The shepherd holds what you have given him, and he is strong enough, tender enough, loving enough to hold it forever if he must. Take another slow breath. Feel how deeply it enters, how softly it releases, how different the body feels now that the burden has shifted. You are not empty. You are relieved, lightened, carried. There is a moment after surrender, a moment the heart almost does not recognize, a moment when the storm that once swirled within begins to lose its force, not through effort, not through control, but through the gentle nearness of the one who now carries what once overwhelmed you. Jeremiah knew this moment intimately, after trembling through long nights, after carrying fears too heavy for his young heart, after finally placing his burden in the hands of the one who formed him. He felt something shift. Inside, a new calm rising like soft light after rain, a quieting, a settling, a peace that did not erase every fear, but softened their voices until they no longer ruled his breath. Tonight, this same quieting begins to unfold within you. Take a slow breath. Let it drift in gently, like a warm tide rising against the shore. Hold it softly, and release it in a long, slow, peaceful exhale. Notice how the chest relaxes, how the diaphragm loosens, how the heart begins to settle into its natural rhythm. The valley around you grows even more serene. The fog lightens, drifting into delicate strands that weave between the grass. The breeze carries a faint warmth, subtle, almost imperceptible, like the final glow of sunset lingering long after the sun has slipped below the horizon. The shepherd stands just a short distance from you, your burden resting gently in his hands. He holds it with such ease, such steadiness. It is as though the very weight that once pressed against your ribs now rests in the safest place it could ever be. You watch him for a moment, not with fear, not with hesitation, but with quiet relief, a relief that slowly begins to seep into your bones, a relief that tells you, you are not alone. You're not responsible for carrying what you could not bear. You're not expected to hold the storm within your own strength. The shepherd turns his gaze toward you. There is no urgency in his expression, no disappointment, no impatience, only peace, only compassion, only the tender love of one who delights in lifting what weighs you down. Jeremiah once imagined that surrender would leave him empty, but he discovered something truer. When God carries the burden, the heart is not left bare. It is filled with quiet strength, quiet hope, quiet peace, the kind that grows slowly, the kind that lasts, the kind that gently changes the way breath moves through the body. The listener may feel that growing peace now, a warmth blooming beneath the breastbone, a soft ease spreading across the shoulders, a gentleness settling into the back of the mind, thoughts no longer racing, no longer clawing for control, no longer demanding immediate answers. You look again at the valley floor, where once your worries gathered like shadows. Now you see patches of soft glowing light, not bright, not overwhelming, but warm, steady, comforting. This is what it feels like when God steps into the inner storm. The winds quiet, the waves soften, the darkness spreads into gentler shades, breath becomes easier, thoughts untangle, and the heart, so tired from bracing itself, finally begins to rest. The shepherd sits now, lowering himself to the ground with unhurried grace. He places your burden beside him, not discarding it, but holding it in a way that assures you it will never again rest its full weight on your spirit. He gestures with a small movement, inviting you to come closer, not demanding, not rushing, just offering companionship. You shift slowly, feeling the earth support your limbs, feeling the soft weight of your own body settling into the moment, feeling the hum of peace drawing you toward him. When you sit beside him, the silence deepens, but it is not empty silence. It is full of presence, full of comfort, full of the quiet reality that you are no longer carrying your storm alone. Jeremiah often found himself sitting in this kind of silence, the kind where he did not need to speak for God to understand, the kind where simply being in divine presence eased the tension inside him, the kind where the storm within grew quiet simply because God was near. The listener may sense this same stillness rising inside, the kind that wraps around your mind like soft cloth, the kind that cushions your thoughts, the kind that tells your nervous system it is finally safe to rest. Take another slow breath. Let it glide into you. Let it drift out like a wave fading into sand. Feel how differently your body receives this breath now, how freely it moves, how gently it releases, how naturally it finds its rhythm again. The shepherd places a hand lightly over his heart, a silent reminder that he carries your burdens close, not far away, not forgotten, but held with tenderness beyond measure. The storm within you softens even more, not because everything is fixed, but because you are no longer facing it alone, because the one who quiets seas, who calms winds, who heals trembling hearts, now sits beside you in the valley of your worries. You remain there, wrapped in stillness, wrapped in warmth, wrapped in the soft, steady presence that quiets every storm. There comes a moment, quiet as moonlight on still water, when the heart begins to understand something it had only hoped was true. The burdens surrendered are not simply set aside. They are held, carefully, tenderly, faithfully, by hands that do not weaken, hands that do not tremble, hands that never grow weary of carrying what overwhelms the human spirit. Jeremiah came to this realization slowly, in the early days of his calling. He felt the weight of his fears lift, but he did not yet understand what had happened to them. He wondered where the worry went, where the pressure disappeared to, until one quiet evening, in a moment of gentle revelation, he sensed that God was holding every piece of what he had laid down, not discarding them, not forgetting them, holding them, honoring them, caring for them with a love deeper than the roots of the earth. Tonight, this same revelation begins to unfold in you. Take a slow breath. Let it glide into your lungs like warm, quiet light. Hold it softly. Then release it in a long, slow, tender exhale. Feel how the body receives that breath with a little more trust than before. The valley grows even more serene, the fog thinning into soft ribbons of silver that weave among the grass, the air warm with the presence of the shepherd, the sky deepening into a tapestry of starlight. The shepherd sits beside you now, the burden you surrendered earlier resting securely in his hands, his fingers curved around it with a gentleness that seems almost impossible, as though he is holding a fragile treasure, a sacred offering, something precious because it came from you. He lifts the burden slightly, just enough for you to see how effortlessly he bears its weight, just enough to remind you how heavy it once felt in your own chest, and something inside you softens at the sight, a quiet relief blooming like a slow sunrise behind your ribs. Jeremiah remembered a night like this, when he realized that the God who made the heavens was now carrying the weight of his fear. It humbled him, it comforted him, it changed the way he saw his own weakness. He understood that God did not despise the fragile parts of him. God cherished them, God held them, God carried them with the same care he gave to the stars. The listener may feel this truth now, a warmth gathering across the chest, a heaviness lifting from the shoulders, a soft glow spreading through the spaces where worry once nested, not because everything is resolved, but because someone trustworthy is holding the things you can no longer manage alone. The shepherd's hands are steady, they do not shift beneath the weight, they do not tighten with strain, they simply hold with love, hold with loyalty, hold with an intimacy that says, I understand how this has hurt you, and I will carry it so it no longer hurts you alone. You look at his hands, strong enough to shape galaxies, gentle enough to touch wounded hearts without causing pain, hands that cradle your burden with the same care they would give a newborn lamb, hands that have carried the sorrows of countless souls through centuries. He turns his gaze toward you, his eyes soft, warm, steady, and without a spoken word. You feel something shift within, a recognition, a truth long needed and finally understood. Your burdens are safe in his hands, safer than they ever were in yours, safer than they could ever be in the hands of anyone else. Jeremiah once felt this same reassurance, when he realized that surrender did not make him vulnerable. It made him sheltered, protected, supported by holy strength far beyond his own. The listener may sense this protection now, a quiet safety forming beneath the breath, a gentle stillness spreading through the heart, the mind settling into a softer rhythm. Take another slow breath. Inhale peace, exhale tension. Feel the weightlessness that comes when nothing presses against your chest anymore. When the one beside you carries what once felt impossible to bear, the shepherd lowers your burden to his lap, his hands resting on top of it as if shielding it from anything that would cause you pain. And in that gesture, a profound truth wraps itself around your spirit. You're not fragile for feeling anxious. You're not weak for needing help. You're not failing for needing someone to carry what overwhelms you. You are loved, loved so deeply that the one who shaped the cosmos chooses to hold what hurts you. The valley around you grows warmer, the fog settles into gentle swirls at your feet, the night hums with steady peace, and your heart, finally unburdened, begins to rest in a way it hasn't in a long time. This is the moment anxiety loses its hold, not because you fought it, but because love now carries it. There is a place in the soul, a hidden, tender place, where tension gathers without permission, the place where breath catches, where the chest tightens, where worry settles like a quiet stone pressed beneath the ribs. It is the place where the body holds on even after the mind wants to let go, where anxiety lingers even as peace begins to rise. Jeremiah knew this place well. He carried tension in the deepest part of his chest, tightness that could not be named, only felt, a quiet pressure that made every inhale shallow, every exhale incomplete. Even after surrendering his burdens, something within him still held tight, not out of stubbornness, but out of habit, out of fear, out of the long practice of bracing himself against the unknown. Tonight, this same hidden tension may still linger in you, even after handing your burdens to the shepherd, even after feeling the storm within you begin to quiet, even after watching his hands cradle what once overwhelmed your spirit. A small part of you may still hold tight, still afraid to soften completely, still unsure if full release is truly safe. And so, the shepherd draws even nearer, not to rush you, not to force a deeper surrender, but to help your heart find the courage it needs to uncurl, to loosen, to breathe fully for the first time in a long while. Take a slow breath. Let it flow in gently, like warm fog drifting through a calm valley. Hold it softly, then release it with a long, slow, melting exhale. Feel the tension shift slightly, not leaving yet, but listening, responding. The valley around you glows faintly now, the mist shimmering with subtle light, the air thick with peace, the grass bending toward the shepherd as though drawn to his warmth. The night sky spread wide above you, dotted with stars that seem to breathe in slow, rhythmic waves. The shepherd sits close, so close that you feel the warmth of his presence brush softly against your arm, not overwhelming, not startling, just a steady, quiet reassurance that you are safe, truly safe. He places his burden-carrying hands gently on his knees, then turns his palms upward, a silent invitation, not to give more worries, but to let the final tightness within your heart come forward. Jeremiah once reached this exact point, the moment when surrender had begun, yet tension remained, the moment when fear had loosened its grip, but had not vanished, the moment when his heart hesitated at the edge of full release. And in that moment, God did not speak loudly. He did not instruct. He did not demand. He simply stayed close enough for Jeremiah's heart to recognize safety, stayed present enough for tension to uncoil naturally, stayed patient enough for the final knots within the soul to untangle in their own time. The listener may feel this same presence now, a warmth rising along the sternum, a soft flutter behind the ribs, a loosening in the back of the throat, a gentle heaviness settling across the body, the early signs that the last threads of tension are preparing to let go. Imagine the shepherd's hand now moving slowly, reaching toward you, not to take anything forcefully, but to rest upon the space between your shoulder and heart. His touch is warm, feather-light, and yet strong enough to steady your entire being. The moment his hand rests there, something shifts inside, not a dramatic release, but a soft unwinding, a gradual stretching of inner space, as though hidden knots, tied long ago, finally begin to loosen. Take another slow breath. Feel how easily it enters now, not blocked, not resisted, not held back by inner tightness. The shepherd's touch deepens, not in pressure, but in presence, as if he is silently telling your heart, it is safe to let go, it is safe to soften, it is safe to rest, it is safe to release what you have held so tightly for so long. Jeremiah once felt this same truth settle within him. He did not feel braver immediately. He did not feel ready for everything ahead, but he felt unburdened, unclenched, able to breathe without fear, pressing against his chest, and that was enough. Enough for rest, enough for peace, enough for the next step. The listener may feel the same now, a warmth expanding slowly outward, a heaviness settling gently over the limbs, a calm settling through the spine, a soft, quiet sigh escaping the lungs, perhaps without you even noticing. This is the heart releasing its final tightness, not because it must, but because love has made it possible, because the shepherd's presence has created space for full release, because the one holding your burdens is strong enough to hold you too. The mist around you swirls gently. The valley hums with a deep, restful silence. The stars shimmer in slow, peaceful rhythms, and within the quiet center of your chest, something opens, something exhales, something lets go. Not everything, just enough, just enough. for rest to deepen, just enough for peace to root itself, just enough for the heart to finally feel free. There is a shelter the heart finds only after surrender, not a structure built of walls or rooftops, not a place of escape from the world, but a spiritual refuge that forms quietly beneath the eyes of the one who watches over you. A place where fear loses its authority, where anxiety no longer dictates the rhythm of thought, where the soul, long tired from bracing against storms, can finally lean into calm. Jeremiah discovered this shelter slowly. It did not appear all at once. It unfolded breath by breath, night by night, in the spaces where God's nearness became more real than the shadows that haunted his mind. He learned that the safest place in all creation was not behind strong walls, but beneath the steady gaze of a God who sees everything, understands everything, and cares with a depth that quiets even the loudest fears. Tonight, this same refuge rises around you. Take a slow breath. Let it move through you like warm night air drifting over still water. Hold it briefly, then release it in a long, soft, unhurried exhale. Feel the way safety begins to gather around your spirit. Imagine the valley again, not as a place of fear now, but as a sanctuary, a haven carved gently into the earth, a landscape softened by the shepherd's presence. The fog that once obscured your vision has thinned into a delicate mist. It hovers low to the ground, glowing faintly in the starlight, no longer unsettling, now comforting, like a quiet blanket laid across the valley floor. You sit close to the shepherd, close enough to feel his warmth, close enough to sense his breath flowing in slow, steady rhythms, close enough to know that if the world shifted beneath your feet, his presence would not. His eyes lift toward the horizon, watching over the valley with a gaze that misses nothing, a gaze that sees danger before it forms, a gaze that sees your wounds before they become too deep, a gaze that sees your fatigue before you collapse under it. And when he looks at you, there is no judgment, no disappointment, no hint of expectation that you must perform strength you do not feel, only love, only readiness, only a deep, unshaken commitment to keep you safe within his care. Jeremiah felt this gaze before he understood its meaning. He sensed God watching over him even when he doubted himself, even when he questioned his worth, even when he believed he was too fragile for the call placed upon him. He learned that divine watchfulness is not about scrutiny, it is about protection, about companionship, about constant presence in every trembling moment. The listener may feel this same truth now, a soft awareness rising along the spine, a gentle warmth spreading across the chest, a quiet knowing that you are not alone, that someone sees you fully and still stays. The shepherd shifts slightly, his cloak brushing lightly against your arm, the sound faint, soothing, a reminder of closeness, of nearness, of presence that does not waver in the dimness of night. He looks down at the burden in his hands, still holding it, still protecting it, still shielding you from its weight, and then he lifts his gaze again, scanning the valley as a guardian would, watching for anything that might steal your peace. But the valley is calm, completely calm. Breath seems to echo softly through the open space. The breeze whispers through the grass with a quiet lullaby. The stars glimmer in slow, peaceful patterns. Everything around you feels wrapped in divine watchfulness. Take another slow breath. Feel the safety settle deeper now, not as a fleeting comfort, but as a steady truth. The kind of truth that anchors the heart, the kind of truth that eases the nervous system, the kind of truth that allows the mind to release its vigilance. This safe place beneath God's eyes is not temporary. It is not fragile. It is not dependent on your performance or spiritual perfection. It is a place sustained entirely by his love. Jeremiah learned that he could return to this refuge again and again, whenever fear rose, whenever pressure built, whenever sorrow tightened its grip. God's watchfulness was his shelter, a canopy of protection stretched over his trembling heart. The listener is invited into that same canopy now, the same covering, the same tender vigilance, the same unwavering presence that guards the fragile places within. You sit beneath the vast sky, safe under starlight, safe under divine eyes that never close, safe in a valley once filled with fear but now filled with peace, safe beside the shepherd who carries your burdens and guards your rest. In this safety, something within you softens even more. The last traces of tension unwind, the breath deepens naturally, the body grows heavier in the most comforting way, the mind drifts toward quiet, the heart settles into calm. This is the safe place, the place beneath God's faithful watch, the place where fear cannot rule, where anxiety cannot anchor itself, where the soul finally exhales the last remnants of its worry. There is a moment in every journey of surrender when the heart realizes something extraordinary. Fear does not have to be fought. Fear does not have to be conquered. Fear does not even need to disappear in an instant. Sometimes, fear is simply exchanged, placed into hands stronger than your own, and in return, peace is given, not forced upon you, not rushed into you, but offered like a warm garment laid across trembling shoulders. Jeremiah found this moment slowly, after nights filled with questions, after days when his calling felt too heavy, after long hours of holding more than his heart was designed to carry. He discovered that when he gave God even the smallest piece of his fear, something unexpected returned to him. Not certainty, not perfect clarity, but peace, gentle, steady, patient peace. The kind that grows in the soil of trust, the kind that warms a heart that has spent too long in the cold grip of worry. Tonight, this same exchange begins to unfold in you. Take a slow breath, let it rise softly into your chest. Let it hold the warmth of the shepherd's nearness, then let it release in a long, deep, unhurried exhale. Feel the way the body loosens. Feel the way resistance softens. Feel the way peace begins to seep quietly into places once held by anxiety. The valley is still around you, quieted, softened, sanctified by the shepherd's presence. The mist settles gently at your feet like a calm tide. The air glows with subtle warmth, enough to reassure, not overwhelm. The hills around you stand watchful but peaceful, and the shepherd sits at your side. Closer now than at any moment before, he holds your surrendered burden in his hands, not with strain, not with effort, but with ease, with confidence, with the deep tenderness of one who knows exactly how this worry has shaped you, and who intends to reshape you through peace, not pressure. He turns his gaze toward you, a gaze that sees everything, everything you have hidden, everything you have feared, everything you have tried to carry alone. Yet his eyes hold no trace of judgment, only the warm invitation toward rest. Jeremiah once trembled in this very way. The weight of his future pressing against him, the fear of inadequacy lingering beneath every breath. But God did not rebuke him, did not tell him to be stronger, did not demand more courage. Instead, God touched his fear with gentleness and exchanged it for peace. The listener may feel this unfolding moment now, a warmth rising behind the sternum, a soft hum of comfort in the spine, a gentle release in the muscles of the neck, a deeper ease filling the lungs. This is the beginning of the exchange. The shepherd shifts slightly, moving one hand from the burden to rest gently above your heart. The contact is subtle, more like warmth than touch, more like presence than pressure. But in that soft nearness, something profound begins to happen. Your fear responds, not with panic, not with resistance, but with softening, as though it recognizes the one who formed your soul, as though it knows it is no longer alone. The shepherd's presence spreads across your chest like a warm blanket being draped around you. A blanket woven of peace, woven of reassurance, woven of the quiet certainty that you are safe. Take another slow breath. Notice how it enters more deeply. Notice how the exhale melts through your ribcage. Notice how the tightness that once clung stubbornly to your heart now begins to dissolve. Fear loosens. Peace grows. One breath, one heartbeat, one moment at a time. Jeremiah felt this same exchange in the quiet hours when God drew near. His fear did not change shape instantly. It softened, it uncurled, it drifted into the hands of the one who loved him, and in the empty space left behind, peace took root. Not loud peace, not dramatic peace, but a gentle peace that stayed. The listener is invited to feel this same transformation. Imagine the shepherd lifting the last traces of fear from your heart, not ripping them away, not dragging them out, but gathering them the way one gathers fragile petals fallen from a flower, with reverence, with care, with understanding. He holds them for a moment, examining them with compassion that sees what these fears have cost you. Then, with a breath softer than wind, he offers peace in return. Peace that settles into the exact spaces where fear once lived. Peace that warms the chest. Peace that steadies the heartbeat. Peace that changes the way air moves through your lungs. Peace that whispers, "You are safe now." Peace that assures, "You are held." Peace that promises, "You do not walk any of this alone." The valley hums with this gentle transformation. The mist glows faintly. The stars shimmer like quiet blessings scattered across the sky. The earth beneath you feels softer, steadier, warmer. You sit in this sacred exchange, fear leaving, peace entering, a slow, tender miracle, and the heart, long tired, long clenched, long overwhelmed, finally begins to rest. There is a quiet lifting that happens when peace finally begins to take root. Not a sudden rise into brightness, not a dramatic escape from sorrow, but a slow, tender, almost imperceptible elevation of the spirit. A sense that the soul, once curled inward in self-protection, is beginning to uncurl, to stretch, to breathe, to lift its gaze from the ground toward gentle light. Jeremiah once lived inside shadows he did not fully understand. Shadows of doubt, shadows of inadequacy, shadows of fear that whispered through the hallways of his heart. He thought these shadows were part of him, permanent, unchangeable. But when God's presence drew close, when divine compassion touched the deepest places within, those shadows softened, they thinned, they drifted away like mist warmed by morning light. Tonight, this same lifting begins within you. Take a slow, deep breath. Let it expand softly into the space behind your ribs. Feel the warmth of peace carried inward. Then release it in a long, gentle, unhurried exhale. Notice how the shadows inside your thoughts seem slightly less dense, slightly less heavy, slightly less defining. Imagine the valley again. The landscape now bathed in soft, silvered calm. The fog reduced to faint ribbons that curl peacefully at the base of the hills. Starlight reflecting across the grass like delicate beads of dew. You sit beside the shepherd, your burden safely held in his hands, your fear exchanged for peace that warms the hollowed spaces within. And now, something begins to change in the depths of your spirit, the shadows inside you, the ones that have lingered for years, the ones formed from old wounds, old memories, old anxieties, begin to shift, not because you force them to, not because you push them away, but because the presence beside you is lifting you gently above them. Jeremiah once felt this too. He did not climb out of his shadows by effort. He was lifted from them, by God's nearness, by God's faithfulness, by God's unwavering love. He discovered that shadows cannot cling. Where divine light rests, the listener may feel that lifting now, a subtle buoyancy rising beneath the heart, a warmth expanding through the belly, a soft looseness in the throat, a sense that the shadows are not gone, but they are no longer the highest truth in your story. The shepherd shifts slightly, turning his body toward you, his cloak brushing softly against your arm, his warmth settling deeper into the cool night air. He lifts his free hand, slowly, gently, toward your face. Not to touch, not to startle, but to guide the direction of your gaze, upward, toward the sky, toward the soft canopy of starlight hanging above you. He does not speak, yet the intention of his movement is clear. Look above the shadows. You lift your eyes, and the sky seems wider than before, deeper, calmer, filled with stars that glow like quiet echoes of God's promises, each one shimmering in the slow rhythm of peace. Jeremiah once looked at the sky in moments like this, and he realized something profound. The same God who crafted those stars, who placed them in ancient patterns, who keeps them burning with unwavering light, is the one who lifts souls from their shadows, who lifts heavy hearts from surrender into rest. The listener may sense this connection now, a realization that the God who holds the galaxies also holds your fear, your worry, your hidden pain, your unspoken hopes, and as you sit beneath this sky, and as the shepherd remains close, your soul begins to lift, not high, not abruptly, but gently, as if rising. Slowly through warm water, the shadows that once clung to your heart start to loosen. They drift outward, they thin, they fade into the soft light surrounding you. Take another slow breath, inhale peace, exhale the remnants of fear. Feel how each breath lifts you just a little more, how each moment with the shepherd strengthens the light within you. The valley is still, the night serene, the hills softened by silver glow, and at the center of this quiet place, your soul rises, not away from your life, not away from your responsibilities, but away from the weight that once kept you in the shadows. Jeremiah found courage in this lifting, not the loud courage of warriors, but the quiet courage of someone who knows they are held, supported, lifted by hands that do not fail, hands that hold burdens, hands that steady trembling hearts, hands that lift weary souls into peace. The listener may feel that same courage beginning now, a soft pulse of strength beneath the heart, a warmth forming in the spine, a deep, restful calm rising from within. The shepherd remains beside you, his presence strong, his gaze watchful, his love steady, and your soul, no longer pressed beneath shadows, begins to breathe in the fullness of this moment, begins to rest in its lifted state, begins to trust the one who holds your burdens and your heart with equal tenderness. This is the quiet miracle of surrender, the gentle lifting out of shadow, the return to peace that was always meant for you. There comes a moment on the journey toward peace when the soul no longer rises, it settles, it descends, not into darkness, not into fear, but into the deep, quiet layers of rest that have waited beneath all the worry. Rest that feels like warm water around tired limbs. Rest that feels like soft earth holding a weary body. Rest that feels like the familiar embrace of someone who has always been near. Jeremiah experienced this descent many times. After the lifting of shadows, after the softening of fear, after the exchange of burdens, there would come a sweet, quiet moment, when his spirit would settle into a restfulness he could not produce on his own, a rest that came from God's nearness, a rest that felt like being carried, a rest that wrapped around him like dusk settling over a peaceful valley. Tonight, this same depth of rest begins to gather around you. Take a long, slow breath, let it rise gently through your ribs, then release it in an even slower exhale. Notice how your body grows heavier, how your thoughts drift more softly, how your inner world begins to quiet. The valley around you has changed again. The mist now lies low and still, barely moving, like a silk blanket spread across the earth. The grass no longer sways. The breeze has softened into a faint whisper. Even the stars above seem to glow more slowly, as if the entire world has settled into the rhythm of divine rest. The shepherd sits beside you in this deepening quiet, his presence no longer simply comforting. It is anchoring, grounding, a steady warmth that reaches into the deepest parts of your being. He shifts closer, not abruptly, but gently, the kind of movement that brings reassurance rather than surprise. His nearness feels like a protective shadow cast over you, a shelter woven from divine calm. Jeremiah once described this kind of peace as rest for the soul, a rest not dependent on circumstances, not tied to outcomes, but rising purely from God's presence, the way still water reflects the sky only when the wind has ceased, the way the heart reflects peace only when divine nearness settles deeply within it. The listener may feel that settling now, the body growing warm and heavy, the breath moving in long, gentle waves, the mind softening into slow, drifting shapes, a quietness thick and tender settling across the chest. You look toward the shepherd, his posture relaxed, his shoulders lowered, his breathing slow and steady, as though inviting your own breath to match his gentler pace, as though giving your heart permission to rest fully, to sink into the peace he offers. He places your surrendered burden at his side, still held, still guarded, but no longer needing your attention, no longer demanding your energy, no longer weighing upon your heart. The shift frees you, not abruptly, but gradually, as though invisible threads of tension are loosening one by one, each release allowing your spirit to descend more deeply into quiet. Take another slow breath. Inhale peace through the nose. Exhale slowly, letting the breath lengthen until it fades at the edge of silence. Feel the gentle heaviness moving through your limbs. Feel the soft warmth spreading across your belly. Feel the quiet settling through the spaces between your thoughts. This descent into restfulness is not sleep yet, but it is preparation, a sacred ease, a holy unwinding, a letting go that cannot be forced, only received. Jeremiah often entered this state before God spoke to him, before revelation came, before clarity formed. Rest always arrived first, the quieting of the heart before the guiding of the path, the softening of the spirit before the strengthening of the soul. The listener is invited to rest in this same gentle unfolding. Imagine yourself leaning slightly toward the shepherd, not out of need, but out of comfort, out of trust, out of the simple truth that rest is easier in his presence. The night deepens, the valley dims into soft gradients of blue and silver, the world around you grows still, still enough for your breath to sound like a quiet tide, still enough for your heartbeat to settle into a rhythm shaped by peace rather than fear, still enough for your spirit to realize you are safe, you are held, you are resting in the presence of the one who carries your burdens and guards your peace. The descent continues. You feel yourself drifting further inward, further downward, further into the gentle cradle of divine rest, not falling, not slipping, but sinking with the softness of dusk settling over calm waters. Your eyelids grow heavier, your thoughts stretch into long, quiet lines. Your chest rises and falls with slow, tender ease. The heart, no longer gripping anything, gives itself permission to rest. This is the deeper stillness, the quiet chamber of the soul where peace rests like a warm stone, where anxiety cannot reach, where fear cannot tighten, where only God's presence remains, steady, warm, familiar. There is a kind of night that does not accuse, a night that does not measure your strength or your progress, a night that does not demand explanations or resolutions, a night that simply holds you, exactly as you are, with all the softness and steadiness of a gentle hand resting over a trembling heart. Jeremiah knew nights like this, nights when the world outside was quiet, but the world inside him felt restless and unsure. Nights when he feared that God would be disappointed, that his anxieties made him unworthy, that his trembling spirit made him too fragile for divine calling. Yet those were the nights when God drew closest, not to correct him, not to question him, but to surround him with a stillness that spoke louder than fear, a stillness that said, "I see you," a stillness that whispered, "I am not leaving," a stillness that wrapped him in unconditional presence. Tonight, that same stillness forms around you, a night that holds, a night that soothes, A night that asks nothing of you but to breathe. Take a slow breath. Let it rise gently within your chest. Let it settle softly as it fills you. Then release it in a long, slow, peaceful exhale. Feel how the body responds, how the shoulders lower, how the heart softens, how the spirit sinks deeper into rest. The valley has become utterly serene now, so still that even the air seems to hover in gentle reverence. The mist has thinned to delicate wisps that curl tenderly around your feet. The stars glow steadily overhead, their light soft and unwavering. The hills stand like quiet guardians, watching over you with gentle silence. The shepherd remains at your side, his posture relaxed, his presence warm, his gaze patient. He is not waiting for you to speak. He is not waiting for you to be strong. He is simply here, holding this space with a love that does not fluctuate, a love that does not withhold, a love that does not recoil from weakness. Jeremiah once feared that his anxious heart would disqualify him, but God's nearness proved otherwise. In every trembling moment, in every question he carried, in every night he felt too small, God stayed, not because Jeremiah was strong, but because God was faithful. And now, as you rest in this quiet valley, the same faithfulness surrounds you. You lean slightly toward the shepherd, your body heavier now, your breath slower, your eyelids growing weighty with gentle fatigue. You feel the ground supporting your limbs, the air cooling softly across your skin, the warmth of divine presence settling through your entire being. The night does not ask you to change, does not ask you to understand everything, does not ask you to produce clarity or courage. It simply invites you to be, to exist within unconditional rest. You feel something soften even more deeply inside you, a place you may not have noticed before, a place that has always carried a quiet fear of being too much or not enough, a place that feared God might turn away if he saw the fullness of your inner struggle. Tonight, that fear dissolves, because the shepherd's nearness reveals a tender truth. You are held without judgment. You are loved without conditions. You are safe without needing to prove anything. Jeremiah once felt peace flood those hidden places when he realized this, when he understood that God's eyes did not search him to find fault, but to care, to comfort, to strengthen, to stay. The listener may feel that same revelation now, a warm heaviness spreading across the chest, a gentle pressure behind the eyes, a slow, grounding calm settling into the belly, the sense that your heart is being held by something vast and tender. The shepherd looks at you, his eyes reflecting the calm of the night, the kind of calm that tells you, there is nothing within you that pushes him away. There is nothing within you he does not already know. There is nothing within you he has not already chosen to love. This truth wraps around you like a warm cloak, soft, steady, enveloping. It quiets the last bits of anxiety that cling to the edges of your mind. It slows your thoughts into gentle, drifting shapes. It invites your body into deeper stillness. Take another slow breath. Inhale the safety of this moment. Exhale the last traces of self-judgment. Feel the deep release in your chest. Feel the heaviness of rest moving into every limb. Feel your spirit settling into a place where you are fully seen, fully accepted, fully held. The night grows even quieter. The valley dims into soft hues of blue and silver. The air thins into a delicate hush, and your heart, once anxious, once clenched, once overwhelmed, rests beneath the gaze of a God who loves without expectation. There is no pressure here, no noise, no demands, only rest, only softness, only unconditional presence. There is a quiet place the mind reaches only when the heart has grown tired of fighting, a place beneath the swirl of thoughts, beneath the looping worries, beneath the quiet ache that keeps the body awake when it longs for rest. It is the place where peace does not argue with fear, does not push back against anxiety, does not demand the mind to be silent. Instead, Peace wraps around the sleepless mind the way a soft blanket wraps around trembling shoulders. Gentle, patient, steady. Jeremiah reached this place many nights, long after giving God his burdens, long after feeling shadows lift, long after sensing the shepherd's presence near. Yet still, his thoughts would stir, still, the questions would rise, still, the mind would tug at old threads of worry, not out of rebellion, but out of habit, out of the deep grooves carved by seasons of uncertainty. And God, knowing the human mind so well, did not grow impatient, did not turn away, did not say, "You should be calm by now." Instead, God wrapped peace around Jeremiah's restless thoughts, peace that moved slowly, peace that circled his mind like a gentle tide, peace that stayed even when the mind kept wandering back to fear. Tonight, that same peace begins to surround you. Take a slow breath. Let it glide through your chest like warm dusk wind. Hold it softly for a moment, then release it in a long, deep, unhurried exhale. Feel how the breath begins to soften the mental edges, how it smooths the sharp corners of thought, how it quiets the spaces inside you that have stayed awake for far too long. Imagine the valley again, but now it has shifted into something even softer, even quieter. The mist has settled into a silvery veil close to the ground. The grass barely stirs. The stars shimmer as though they are breathing with you. The shepherd sits just beside you, closer than before. His presence no longer simply comforting, but enveloping, a warm field of calm that extends outward like a quiet embrace. You feel the heaviness of your thoughts, not in a burdensome way, but in an honest way. You feel the fatigue beneath them, the longing for stillness, the desire for rest that has been waiting inside you all along. Jeremiah felt this same restless longing. Even after peace touched his spirit, his mind would wander, circle, return to old concerns, and each time, God pulled peace closer around him, not correcting, not scolding, just covering, like a mother pulling a blanket over a child who has kicked it away in sleep. The listener may feel this same covering now, a soft heaviness beginning behind the eyes, a warmth spreading through the temples, a gentle sinking in the back of the mind, as if something unseen has begun to cradle your thoughts, not to silence them, but to cushion them, to make them softer, less sharp, less demanding. The shepherd lifts his hand, not abruptly, but with slow, intentional calm. He reaches toward your head, never touching, just hovering near, and immediately, you feel something shift. It's as if every restless thought pauses, as if the mind finally exhales, as if the swirling slows to a soft, steady drift. He moves his hand slightly, tracing slow arcs in the air above you, and with each movement, your inner world responds. The thoughts that once pressed against you begin to stretch out into gentle lines. The echoes inside your mind soften into quiet waves. The mental noise fades until only peace remains. Jeremiah once sat in this same healing silence. He felt God calming the very places where anxiety lived in his mind, softening the echoes of old fears, quieting the tremors beneath familiar worries. He learned that peace is not merely the absence of fear. It is the presence of God cradling the mind. Tonight, peace cradles you in the same way. The valley grows even quieter. You notice the world blurring softly around the edges, not from confusion, but from restfulness, as though your senses themselves are settling into calm, as though your mind is being held gently in warm, steady hands. Take another slow breath. Let it drift in like cool night air. Let it fall out like a whispered sigh. Feel how each breath pulls you deeper into ease, how each exhale unwinds your thoughts, how each moment draws you further from the noise inside your mind. You lean slightly toward the shepherd now, not out of fear, but out of comfort, out of trust, out of the simple truth that peace is easier to feel near him. The night wraps around you like soft velvet, the ground beneath you supportive and warm. the air around you humming with gentle silence, and your mind, once restless, once tangled, once loud, now rests in a place of deep, sacred quiet. Peace covers you, surrounds you, holds you, not because the world has changed, but because the one who holds your burdens holds your mind as well, with tenderness, with patience, with love that hums softly through every thought. There is a kind of rest that does not come from sleep, a rest that does not depend on closed eyes or tired limbs, a rest that rises from somewhere far deeper, from the quiet realization that you are known, fully, completely, tenderly, known in every fragile place, known in every shadowed thought, known in every trembling breath you've taken tonight. Jeremiah knew this rest. He learned that before God ever asked him to speak, before God ever sent him into a difficult world, God knew him, knew the shape of his heart, knew the patterns of his fear, knew the wounds he never voiced, and loved him not despite those things, but through them, into them, in a way that made rest bloom inside him like a slow-growing dawn. Tonight, that same dawn begins to glow within you. Take a slow, warm breath. Let it fill your chest gently. Let it rise like quiet light moving through hidden corridors of the heart, then release it in a long, restful exhale. Feel how gratitude begins to stretch softly inside your ribs, not loud, not demanding, just a quiet fullness that spreads like warmth across the sternum. Imagine the valley again. But now, it feels richer, deeper, more intimate, everything softened, everything hushed, everything holding you as though you belong here, because you do. The mist lies like a soft blanket over the earth, its silvery glow reflecting the calm that now resides within you. The hills are silent, protective, the stars shimmer as if blessing the peaceful hush that has settled across your spirit, and the shepherd sits beside you, not moving, not speaking, just being, just present, just near in a way that quiets the deepest parts of you. Your burden rests safely in his hands. Your thoughts lie quiet beneath his gentle peace. Your fears have been exchanged for stillness. Your shadows have lifted. Your breath has deepened. And now, gratitude rises, not forced, not spoken aloud, but felt in the quiet center of the soul. Jeremiah knew this. Feeling too, after the long nights of doubt, after the trembling hours of surrender, he would sit in the presence of God with no need for words, no need for questions, no need for understanding, just a quiet awareness that he was known and loved by the one who shaped him. The listener may feel this same awareness now, a soft warmth blooming behind the heart, a gentle heaviness lowering the shoulders, a lightness in the mind where thoughts once pressed tightly. You lift your gaze slightly, just enough to see the shepherd's face illuminated by the soft starlight. He watches the valley. He watches over your burden. He watches over you, not with scrutiny, not with expectation, but with the deep devotion of one who delights in caring for you. And something inside you melts further, a quiet realization taking shape. You did not have to hide anything. You did not have to present yourself as stronger. You did not have to earn this peace. You only had to come, to breathe, to surrender. Take another slow breath. Let it drift in, warm and steady. Let it release with tenderness. Notice how gratitude settles into every part of you. How your limbs feel heavy with comfort. How your chest feels open. How your spirit feels quietly full. The shepherd shifts slightly, just enough for his shoulder to brush against yours, just enough for you to feel the certainty of his presence, just enough for your heart to recognize that it is fully known, fully understood, fully loved. Jeremiah once described rest like this as being carried, not physically, but spiritually, emotionally, internally, carried by a God who knew him more deeply than he knew himself. Carried by a love that anticipated his fears before he spoke them. Carried by a presence that never stepped away even in his darkest moments. The listener may feel that same sensation now, carried by presence, carried by peace, carried by hands strong enough to lift galaxies, yet soft enough to soothe the smallest anxieties of a human heart. The valley hums with gentle silence. The stars glow with slow, peaceful rhythm. The earth holds you. Like a cradle, and deep within, a quiet rest flows through you. This is not the rest that comes from the world, not the rest that follows distraction or exhaustion. This is the rest that flows from being fully known by God, fully loved, fully seen, fully held. The shepherd turns to you, his eyes soft, kind, filled with the quiet joy of seeing your heart finally at peace, and you know, without needing to hear words, that he has waited for this moment, for your rest, for your relief, for your gentle return to peace. You breathe deeply again, and with each breath, gratitude swells, peace deepens, rest settles, the night draws you into its softness. There is a moment, right before sleep, when the boundaries of the day soften, when the edges of thought blur, when the heart settles into a rhythm that feels almost sacred. This is the moment when rest becomes not just something you seek, but something that finds you, cradles you, holds your spirit the way dusk holds fading light. Jeremiah knew this moment well. Many nights he lay under the quiet of the stars, after the struggle, after the surrender, after the slow rising into peace, after the gentle descent into stillness. There would come a final breath, a final softening, a final release, when he felt wholly and tenderly embraced by God, not for what he would do tomorrow, not for how brave he might become, but simply because he belonged, because he was loved, because he was his. Tonight, this same final rest gathers around you. Take a slow breath. Let it ease into your lungs like warm night air drifting through an open window. Hold it gently. Then let it melt outward in a long, soft, sigh-like exhale. Notice how your body responds, how your shoulders sink, how your chest loosens, how your heart settles into slow, peaceful rhythm. The valley around you is now a sanctuary of deep night. The mist lying still over the grass like silk woven from moonlight. The hills softened into silhouettes of safety. The stars glowing in slow, rhythmic pulses that mirror your breathing. Everything calm, everything quiet, everything gently guiding you toward rest. The shepherd sits beside you, his presence a warm field of peace, his posture relaxed, his breathing steady and deep. He has held your burden, he has quieted your thoughts, he has watched over your heart, and now, he keeps watch over your rest. You feel the nearness of his presence, not overwhelming, not commanding, just a gentle assurance, a closeness that tells your tired heart, you can rest now, you have given enough, you have carried enough, you have fought enough for one day. Jeremiah often reached this place, the sacred moment where anxiety loosened its last hold, where fear released its final whisper, where the mind, once restless, drifted into a soft, dreamy quiet. He knew he did not have to stay awake holding the world together, because God was awake, God was near, God was watching. The listener may feel this truth now, a gentle heaviness in the limbs, a warm pressure behind the eyes, a quiet softening in the jaw, a sense that gravity has become kinder, more welcoming, more supportive. Take another deep, warm breath. Let it rise. Let it fall. Feel how the breath carries you closer to sleep. Feel how peace pulls you toward deeper calm. Feel how everything within you unwinds under the shepherd's watchful gaze. You lean slightly into him, not out of need, but out of comfort, out of trust, out of the simple truth that rest feels safer when you are held by someone who never lets go. The shepherd shifts his cloak, letting a fold rest softly against your shoulder, a gesture not of command but of care, a quiet covering, a tender embrace, a reminder that you are sheltered, protected, loved without measure. Jeremiah felt this same covering many nights, a spiritual warmth that wrapped around him and lulled his weary mind towards sleep, a presence that said, rest, a presence that whispered, I am here, a presence that promised, You are safe in my hands. Tonight, this presence surrounds you too. The valley fades into deeper hues. The mist dims into soft shadows. The starlight blurs into gentle halos. And the world around you becomes a cradle of divine quiet. Your breathing slows. Your thoughts drift like feathers on warm air. Your body settles into complete, effortless rest. This is the peace God gives, not temporary comfort, not momentary relief, but rest that holds you, rest that keeps you, rest that wraps around your soul like a promise that cannot be broken. The shepherd looks at you with eyes full of tenderness, the kind of tenderness that sees everything within you and loves you fully through it. He places his hand lightly over your burden, and with a slow, gentle breath, he watches over you as you drift towards sleep. There is nothing left for you to do tonight, nothing left to solve, nothing left to carry, nothing left to hold on to. Everything that weighed on you rests in his hands now. Everything that troubled you lies beneath his watch. Everything that mattered to you is cherished by him. So you may rest, you may breathe, you may sleep, covered by peace, held in divine presence, wrapped in the quiet embrace of the one who never leaves. Let the night cradle you. Let the shepherd guard your rest. Let peace lead you gently into sleep. Good night, beloved. Rest in his arms.